Have you noticed recently that you don't seem to believe your own words anymore? Somewhere along the way, your own promises have become hollow. Your words, they don't even mean anything to yourself. And I don't think it's because you're lazy. I think it's something else entirely. I want to explain that to you in this video because once I realized it, it changed a bunch of things for me. Let me start with a simple analogy. Imagine your best friend. If he told you that he'd show up at 6 p.m. tomorrow, and then he didn't, and then he promised again next week, and then he showed up late, and then he promised again, and then he didn't show up, when would you stop believing him? I would stop believing him after the second time. I'm not showing up at 6. So I want you to think, why would our brain treat us any different? If we say we're going to do something and then we end up procrastinating or not doing it, what do you think that's going to happen? What do you think that's going to do to your self-confidence and self-belief? I think the relationship that we have with ourselves is even more intimate than with anyone else. It works the same way though. If you promise something and then you don't do it, you know the reason. You know the true reason. It's not, you didn't have anywhere to be. You didn't have anything to do. You just didn't do it. Okay, let me start with a personal example. See, I play badminton professionally, and when I started 5 years ago, I was motivated and disciplined. I would wake up at 5 to go train by myself. I was constantly watching game footage, and I'm training hard in the gym. I'm doing everything right. But sometime later, there was a shift, which I didn't realize at the time. As I slowly missed commitments and promises, which by the way, they were to me, not to anybody else, I started to spiral more and more, which I couldn't see at the time. And before I realized it, every time I thought to myself, hey, I'm gonna wake up at 5 tomorrow, I'm gonna go train hard tomorrow, it was more of a suggestion. It wasn't a promise, it wasn't anything concrete. It was like, I knew I didn't have to do it in my head. Then when I didn't wake up at 5 or woke up and turned the alarm off instantly, it was like my brain had an excuse ready to go instantly. My brain was an expert in coming up with these excuses, and in the moment, they always seemed justified. It seemed like I was doing the right thing. I had no second thoughts about breaking that promise to myself. Now, I didn't know it back then, but every missed commitment, every time I didn't show up for myself, that intimate relationship that I had with myself, it was changing gradually. I have a weird way of thinking about this. Imagine everything you promise or every commitment you make prints onto a receipt. Waking up early, hitting your protein goal, going to the gym, whatever. The point is, your brain keeps score. And I don't think it's doing that to punish you, but that's just how prediction works. There's a psychologist named Albert Bandura who spent decades studying something called self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is basically the belief that you can do something successfully, whether that's giving a presentation, sticking to a workout plan, or whatever else you can think of. One of the biggest things that he discovered were something called mastery experiences. This is basically just succeeding at something yourself. Instead of watching a YouTube video about programming, you actually program something on your own. That's a mastery experience. See, every time you follow through on something, your brain collects a piece of evidence saying, maybe I can do this. And naturally, the opposite is also true. If you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, your brain thinks, maybe I just can't do it. Which is why you'll notice your willpower decreases gradually every time you miss something. Every time you say you're going to do something and then you don't do it, the next time it becomes that much harder. Which is why I think that this receipt matters. You don't have to think of it as a receipt, that's just what I do, but your brain is keeping evidence of everything that you do or do not do. It's just predicting what you're gonna do when you say something. Okay, let me briefly go over why most advice doesn't work in this scenario. Motivation, watching videos, affirmations, reading books. None of them are inherently bad, but there's a reason that they don't last. Let's go back to the friend analogy again. If somebody lied to you every day for whatever, a month, and then they suddenly say, trust me. I don't know about you, but I'm not trusting that guy. So it's the same thing. You can't consistently break promises and then all of a sudden watch a motivational video is like, okay, tomorrow's the day. That's not how it works. It's also the reason why looking at a mirror and saying, I'm confident, doesn't usually work unless you're actually taking action to back that up. So then what does all this mean? Do you just start making promises to yourself and following them? I mean, that's what I thought. And that is part of it. You do start that way. But what I realized is keeping 1 or 2 promises isn't that difficult. Becoming someone who consistently keeps their promises, that's an entirely different thing. For example, what happens when motivation disappears or when you fail once more? Understanding why you don't trust yourself isn't the same as rebuilding that trust. Self-confidence and self-trust isn't built overnight through one big decision. It's built through hundreds of tiny ones that you keep to yourself and keep showing up. And it's not an instant transformation. It's gradual. You may not even notice it, but as you keep these promises up and you keep showing up, you begin to believe yourself again.